The NFL scene as a rookie in 2016. He's averaged fewer and fewer rushing yards a game every season since. Last season, the first time in Zeke's career, he averaged under 4 yards a carry. Shannon, we'll start with you. How are you going to remember Zeke's Cowboys career?
Meteoric rise, precipitous fall.
Okay.
I'm not really surprised by this, Skip, because we saw it coming, and I told you, Skip, I say, what would if you go back and study history and you look at the running back position, they don't normally lose it and get it back. He was a run to contact, run to collision back. He wasn't a guy that dodged tackles. He wasn't a guy that ran out of bounds and preserved himself, Skip. He was running to contact. He was a collision, a high collision back. And over the years, Skip, if you look at it, you talked about 108 and then 98 and then 90 this and then boop, boop.
Every single year for 7 years, it fell.
It fell. Yeah. And to the point that it went to 50. Even as the games increased, he couldn't crack 1,000 yards because the average yards per game had dipped so low. And now the yards per carry had dipped so low. And so, and I get it, he had 12 touchdowns. He's still a top back. He can get you 1-2 yards in a cloud of dust, but the money that they were paying him, he was no longer a top back. And I don't know, I'm not in the locker room, but everybody talks about how great he was in the locker room. Clarence Hill Jr., who follows that team, who knows that team very well.
He does.
Talks about how great Zeke was in the locker room. His teammates speak. Skip, Jerry Ben knew he probably should have released Zeke.
Yeah, I think
and when I believe Jerry, I don't believe a whole lot Jerry says, but I do believe in this. Yeah. When he said this was a very, very tough decision for him, I actually believe that, Skip, because we saw the writing on the wall ever since he got the big deal, that he wasn't the same back he was his first 3 years in the league. And every year from that point, it was decline, 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 decline. And Jerry hung in and hung in and hung in. And it probably when all the guys, when Steven and all the got around the table and said, Jerry, he's not that anymore. And we're paying for what? And they finally made the decision that they're going to release Zeke. Now, I don't know if they're going to re-sign him at a lower number. I don't know what that is. Because my thing is, Skip, you could have worked that out and probably saved yourself. So it seems to me like they're moving on. But it was what could have been. Because there was no question, his first 2 years in the league, he was the best back in football. And then it just, poof, it was gone.
So, Mr. Sharp, as I reflect back on all that happened and then didn't happen with Ezekiel Elliott, I'm going to pay tribute to him while at the same time taking responsibility for overreacting. I'm lifelong diehard, Dallas Cowboy fan. What he did his rookie year made me swoon. I was rapturous.
Yes.
And I must admit now in 2020 hindsight, it camouflaged Dak his rookie year because it made Dak a little better than Dak ever was going to be. So I told you at that point, I thought Dak had the best rookie year any quarterback had ever had. RG3's was very good, and I thought Dak's was a little better. They went 13-3.
Right.
They had the 1 seed. You're kidding. Well, in largest part, it was because of 21, not because of 4.
Correct.
4 was very good.
Right.
But they had the offensive line at a much earlier stage and age where they were in the heart of their prime. They were dominant. And all of a sudden, you took the 4th pick in the draft, a young man who had owned college football, especially 2 years before, when he just ran wild on St. Nick's defense and in Oregon and back to the Big Ten championship game. That same guy stepped right into the NFL and took it over.
Right.
He was the best.
Right.
You could argue he was the MVP that year.
Right.
You could make the case that he was.
Well, I would have voted him Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
I mean, Dak won the award.
He did.
But I'll agree with you. I thought Zeke was the driving force.
Okay. He had a career high that year as a rookie, 322 carries for a career high, 1,631 yards, with a career high 15 rushing touchdowns. That was 109 yards a game. That was 5.1 yards per carry.
And he missed the game. Remember, he sat out the last game.
He sat out the last game. He caught 32 balls for 363 more yards. That's 11.3 per catch. Okay, you are doing damage that is incomprehensibly great. You are lifting a team that nobody really saw come to 13-3. Nobody saw that coming. And it was wondrous for me until they ran into Aaron bleeping Rodgers and the Packers, and they weren't ready to play. They didn't play the last game, and so then they had the 2 weeks off, and they were not ready to play defensively against Aaron and company. Remember what happened? They fell behind 21-3 against Green Bay. Would you believe that Zeke in that game, you would say that effectively you have taken him out of the game when you fall behind 21-3? He had 22 carries, only 22, for 125, so they couldn't stop him either. But it took more Dak throwing for 305 to get them back to 31 all, and finally they lost 34-31.
What you needed, Skip, was Zeke to have that 125 and them being the lead, so now he can bleed the clock.
Shannon, seriously, I look back now at this. That was the year. That was the time. It's his first year was the year. If you come out and you're ready to play and you take the lead and then you just hammer him down their throats, he's going to get 200 yards. And they're not going to be able to stop you or him. And you're going to win that game, and you're going to host the NFC Championship game. And I don't know. Could you keep, if you were ready to play in the next game, could you go win the Super Bowl? Sure, you could go win the Super Bowl. It's possible because he was that great. Well, then the next year, he's got issues hanging over his head the whole year. And finally, he goes for 6 games. He is gone. Remember, Jerry fought back the
Lisa Friel.
Lisa Friel. Remember that? But it was the girlfriend, his previous girlfriend, had alleged, I'm going to read it here, multiple instances of physical violence against her. And Jerry Jones at the league meetings went up to Lisa Friel of the NFL and said, there's nothing there. And they fought it, and they went to court once, and they won 1 round of court.
And you remember Kia Roberts lost her job because she said there's no there there.
Yes, she was
the investigator.
And she interviewed the alleged victim, right? And 2 police departments investigated and said no charge. No charges.
So Zeke had 3-0 in his favor, and somehow he still gets 6 games.
He got 6 games, and it just took the life out of that team.
It did, absolutely.
So it fell back a little bit, but it's still yards per game. He led, and then he led again in yards per game the next year. And finally, it's a contractual impasse, and he goes to Cabo, and he's running in the sand, and all of a sudden, Jerry caves in just before the season started and said, I give him his money. Made him the highest paid running back in pro football because he had earned it. But as you well know with NFL contracts, it can't be what you've earned. It must be what you will do for said team. And unfortunately, from that moment on, to your point, it was a meteoric fall. Because, Shannon, in my career, I have never seen a running back hit the wall even harder than he used to hit the hole. Just he got his money and he hit the wall because he was a shell of himself the next 3 years. And then I saw a great stat this morning. Would you believe that in his final 50 carries for the Dallas Cowboys? Ezekiel Elliott gained 100 total yards and 50 carries. That's 2.0 per. Well, that's what he became. He wasn't even ordinary. He just wasn't very good. And they continued to feed the beast. They continued to feed Zeke. Because look at the carries last year. He still got 231 carries to Tony Pollard's 193. And he still did catch 17 more balls to Tony Pollard's 39. So in overall touches, it was 248 for Zeke last year to 232 for Tony Pollard. My point is, because Jerry loved him, I think the team fell in love with him, that they continued to hang their hat on Zeke like he was the game plan. He is the driving force of a team. Well, you can't do it anymore.
No.
Okay, and to your final point, this also astounded me. Zeke came out of Ohio State so troubled. I heard all the stories, and he had all the issues. He had the issue on St. Patrick's Day. Remember, he's up on the top of the building. Well, it was one thing after another. He was a quote-unquote troubled player. And then all of a sudden, I'm hearing, no, he's a team leader. And then I'm hearing he is the most revered teammate in the locker room. And one reason they kept him for 1 year too long is he was so beloved in the locker room. Well, that shocked me in a very positive, great way. I didn't know he had that in him. But apparently That's what it was.
Right.
They love having him around. And I'm not going to rule completely out the possibility
coming back
that he'll go shop himself. And there's speculation, would Tampa be interested, because Skip Peete, his former running back coach, is now down in Tampa.
Okay.
Shannon, help me out. I don't see it. Do you see it?
No.
Do you see any value left?
Skip, I mean, you mentioned 231 rush yards, 231 carries, 876 yards, under 4 yards a carry. He had just 17 runs of 10 yards or more.
Yep.
In his final 4 regular season games, he averaged 2.7 yards a carry.
Okay. Who wants that? What? I mean, you're clinging to the past. You're still living in the past with him.
Yeah, you're hoping that, and he'll never be what he once was.
Okay.
And that's the hardest thing, because, Skip, we remember, you talk about how great he was in those first 3 years. He would have led the league in rushing his first 3 years out had he not missed those 6 games. Yep. Because yards per game, he was leading the league. So you average put those 6 games back on him, he's going to lead the league in rushing. And Skip, it just is like he stepped off a cliff. Yeah. He was never the same back. And backs don't lose it and regain it.
Okay. So is there a way he shops himself, no takers, and Jerry loves him like a son and says, at a very reduced rate, at a veteran minimum, we would take you back as our backup back. But you're going to have to be the backup, and your carries are going to have to reverse where Tony's going to get the majority.
So let him be your short yardage guy to goal line, like a Jamal Williams in Detroit, where he had, because Zeke had he had 12 touchdowns.
He did. He's still pretty good, and he's for what it's worth, blitz pickup, there's nobody better.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That might be a possibility, Skip, but he was never going to recapture what he once was. And you could see it. And I know you held out hope, like, I think he's going to bounce back. Everybody's talking about he's in great shape.
Well, I thought just for the money, it's like a contract year. Yeah. Because it was a contract year because you could see what was coming. They don't owe him any more guarantees. So he is so cuttable after this year, even though there was 1 year left on the deal. Yeah,
but Skip, even though you want to, if it's not in your body, it's not in your body. It had been robbed because you mentioned 330-something carries as a rookie. So he was a guy that was getting the ball, and it wasn't like he was Barry, like he's dodging people.
He just runs through.
Yeah, he's running. Those are collisions.
Were they? So did you read Jerry's statement that he made? It says, glowing a tribute as you will ever hear from Jerry Jones. Zeke's impact and influence is seared into this Cowboys franchise in a very special and indelible way. He has been a consummate professional and leader that set a tone in our locker room, on the practice field, and in the huddle. Zeke defined what a great teammate should be. Well, this is... Whew.
Yes.
Okay, that's why he was still there last year and was featured.
Yes.
As he was the starting running back.
And Jerry, we talked about, no, Zeke's going to start. Zeke's going to eat. Zeke's going to be our feature guy. So it goes to show you, without saying, that what Jerry thought of Zeke, because he was still, even as many people, reporters, fans, wanted Tony Pollard to start, Jerry said, no, Zeke's going to start. And Zeke's going to get his carries.
So will I remember Eat Zeke?
Yeah.
Yes. Will I remember him jumping in the Salvation Army kettle? Yes, I will, because it was spectacularly special.
Yes.
It's an indelible memory for me. But I mostly hark back to his rookie year, and unfortunately, he played 6 more.
Right.
And it just went slowly downhill from his rookie year on.
Right.
But I'll put his rookie year up against anybody's rookie running back.
It was special. Whew. It was special.
This move frees up almost $17 million in cap space for the Cowboys, gentlemen.
Wow.
And I think everybody will remember that Salvation Army kettlebell hop. Indeed. Okay, gentlemen. The Warriors' road woes are continuing. Do you think they have any shot at repeating? I got to get your take on this. Coming up next, right here on FS1.